graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Deviants, welcome to show. I am Bill S. Preston Esquire, and I am Ted Theodore Logan, and I am the Clitoris, and I am here with
the Gooch.
And the Diva Slack.
And we are Wild Stallions! Yes, we are here today to talk about a glorious film from our childhood, at least from my childhood, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Excellent. Did you guys see this when it first came out when you were little, or you didn't see it till you're a little bit older?
I saw it when I was younger.
I didn't see it until I was older, probably on TV when on like in high school.
In high school, wow, okay, yeah. I remember seeing this when I was in 3rd grade, and I remember after watching the movie, I just started saying "dude" all the time. Everything was "dude this, dude that, dude this," and I don't know if this movie like brought it back or "dude" was always a thing, but I don't remember ever saying it before this movie, and after this movie, I remember saying it all the time.
Well, I think you also come from a different background than, say, myself.
No, I remember I said "dude" because of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay.
That's why I said "dude."
But this is pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I think it is, probably.
The original, what, came out in 86, 87? The one that we watched until like at least mid-90s? Or early 90s, maybe?
Came out in 90.
Yeah, so this preceded it, yeah.
Yeah. But the cartoon was what? 80, 86?
I'm talking about the cartoon.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the
84, 85.
I'm talking about the cartoon. That's the one I would.
It looks like the comic first appeared in 84 and the animated series began in 87.
86.
This movie was released in 89.
Yes. So there you go.
Cowabunga.
And that's
dude.
That's where I started.
Right.
That's where I started saying "dude." To be honest with you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The movie was made. It was shot in 1987. Right before release, Dino De Laurentiis' film production company went bankrupt. A distribution company went bankrupt, and so they delayed the release of the film by about a year when Orion picked it up, and they released it February 17th. 1989. So that's 30 years ago. February 17th. We're recording this on February 15th. This episode will be posted on February 20th. So the glorious 30-year anniversary of this movie will have been passed in between the time that we record this and you hear it. To me, that this is a momentous thing because I love this movie. I watched it a ton of times when I was a kid, and obviously I remember everything from it and all the lines from it and all that stuff like that. I know Gooch, you said you didn't watch it until you were in high school, but Devo, what influence did this have on you when you were growing up?
When I was younger, this is I think one of the few movies that was like played a lot on like TNT or TBS or something like that. So it got a lot of TV airplay, and I remember watching it mostly there. I remember I had the sequel on VHS, but like I used to watch this all the time, and you know, Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy. I'd like walk around the house and say Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy. I don't know. And what's weird is that like when I was a kid, I didn't really latch on to Bill and Ted so much because like they're bumbling idiots, and I don't know, there was just something about them like even when I was younger, I didn't really I don't know, maybe I just couldn't relate to them or whatever, but I always liked the like all the past profiles, you know, that they end up kidnapping, you know, like Billy the Kid and how Socrates were like best buds for whatever reason. And like I would remember stupid things like Genghis Khan cleaning the toilet and then using the brush to comb his hair. It's like stuff like that. Yeah,
for me this was like, I really love this movie. I love the second one. It's one of my favorite movies, probably of all time, and one of my movies when I was growing up as a kid. The movie, incidentally enough, was critically panned upon release, which I guess is predictable given the nature of the film, but it actually has a 78% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which I found surprising. And the movie was made on a budget of $10 million and grossed $40 million. So I'd say that was a pretty good investment for on the film.
Financial
exactly.
success.
Yeah.
That's funny because this, like you mentioned, some of these historical figures, Devo. I remember when I first watched the movie, I don't think I had ever heard of or knew who a couple of those people were. Like, I didn't know who Joan of Arc was. I didn't know who Napoleon was. I probably had heard of Socrates, and I probably had heard of Billy the Kid, but I don't think I had remember hearing of Joan of Arc or in particular Sigmund Freud or like I said, Napoleon before this movie. So to me, this movie does have a little bit of an interesting nostalgia to it, where it's the first time I remember something. You know what I mean?
This is where you got your education.
And I remember thinking, and I think this is also funny because I remember thinking that the water park that's in the movie, which actually they filmed at Raging Waters in the actual San Dimas, that particular scene. Most of the movie was shot in and around Phoenix, Arizona, but the Raging Water part.
No, I thought that was at a golf.
It was part of it was. Yeah, part of it was, but they also shot some of it at a Raging Waters in San Dimas, and I thought that because they call it water lube, but I actually thought they were saying Waterloo, which is obviously related to Napoleon. I don't know if that was like a, like a little, Easter egg to it or something like that. But I remember thinking at the young age that somehow Waterloo wasn't like a place that there was a war took place at, you know what I mean? That it was this water park. So yeah,
right.
I thought that was funny.
It's like burying my shell at Wounded Knee.
Yeah, exactly. In 2010, the real city of San Dimas celebrated 50 years of incorporation, and the celebration slogan was San Dimas, 1960 to 2010, an excellent adventure.
Huh. Did they do anything like Bill and Ted related? Like, did they have a bunch of like phone booths set up and
I wish.
people dressed as like Abe Lincoln, Genghis Khan?
If anyone knows, that would be awesome. If anyone has pictures, send it our way. That would be cool. So gets on to the Deviant casting director. So let's first and foremost, George Carlin is a fucking legend, and he's fucking awesome in this movie.
Didn't realize he had a lisp.
Does he have a lisp? Yeah, he did a little bit.
Dude, like when he first comes on and he's explaining like how I guess the world is now a cool place, but it almost wasn't. Like you can see he's got this like very visible lisp, and like whenever I've seen him do stand up or any sort of comedy, like he always like talks like he's like extreme in his mannerisms. So I never caught it, but like this is probably the first time that I've seen him do anything, I don't know, moderately serious or sort of like not trying to be funny. And like it came out really, really thick to me. It was weird.
So it's interesting that you mentioned him because actually they brought him in very late into the production, and actually they were originally looking for like a Sean Connery type, like a serious actor. And I think someone had suggested George Carlin late into the process, and they were able to get him. And I think Alex Winters even said that it was very, serendipitous, very happenstance that he said the whole movie was like that, honestly. And so when Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves auditioned for the roles, they actually auditioned for the other role of each character. So like Alex Winter auditioned for Ted and Keanu Reeves auditioned for Bill, and they characters were so alike that they actually got confused when they started filming who was supposed to be who.
That's weird.
That's all funny.
So let's talk about Bill and Ted and Keanu and Alex Winter. Obviously, Alex Winter didn't have the type of career. He was in Lost Boys, of course, and some other movies, but he didn't have the type of career that Keanu did. And Keanu, this was a really early movie for him. Like he made River's Edge in '86. He did Dangerous Liaisons in '88, and this was released in '89. Obviously, should have been released in '88. And he didn't do Point Break until '91, and that's the same year he did like My Own Private Idaho and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. So this was really early in his career, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure that people didn't think that he was going to become who he became. If you know what I mean.
One of the greatest actors of all time.
One of the greatest thespians ever.
And
dude, I love Keanu.
I love him too, but he's also one of these guys that people criticize for not being a good actor, but what the guy is good at is picking the movies that suit his talents.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's funny because for a long time, people never really got over the whole whoa thing of him being a doofus, him being a dummy. And I think that people don't even, I think it's been so long and he's made so many good movies now, people don't even remember he was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, that he's Ted.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like when you look at Keanu for the longest time, like even in The Matrix, you're like, oh, that's Ted. But now you're like, all right, that's
John Wick.
Like, that's Neo. Not even that. I think everybody's just now like that's Keanu. That's neat. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a whole generation of people now that didn't even grow up with Bill and Ted, right? They didn't grow up.
They
with
didn't even know what it is.
They grew up with watching The Matrix on TV, stuff like that. So to them, Keanu probably is Neo, even more so than he's Neo to us.
Yeah.
But I mean, for us, to me, he's
Johnny Utah.
He's Johnny Utah.
John Constantine.
He's Jack Traven from Speed.
Oh yeah.
And of course, and he's Johnny Mnemonic. I mean, come on now.
Johnny Utah is iconic though.
Yeah,
great
that
movie.
Is. But only for like people that are our age. I mean, you tell someone that's like grew up with him watching and him in The Matrix. They're like, who the hell is Johnny Utah? You mean from that remake of that movie? That's what they
Just slap the taste out of their mouth for that.
You can't. Why?
What do you mean why? We saw The Godfather. Was that asking for too much?
Like, that's different. They haven't remade The Godfather.
No, but I'm saying like we saw it, and the movies came out a decade before we were born. But we still saw them.
But what Lucho is referring to is the fact that a kid nowadays will see Point Break, but it's not the Keanu version.
It's not the Keanu version.
Well, that's a shame because the new version's not good.
They might ask like, "Oh, there's another version."
Those kids are gonna watch Transformers the movie and not realize that there's a badass cartoon in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel
They're
like
gonna
when we were
watch Michael
young,
Bay's Ninja Turtles.
When we were young, we were aware of all these things, and I feel like there's a younger generation that just for some reason is just not aware. Or maybe they're just not interested.
Well, I mean, we don't tell them. Well, I mean, if you have, it's up to us to tell them, like, well, there was another version of this. It's probably a better version. Like, oh, really? Yeah.
And at the same time, when we were younger, the funnel was much smaller.
Exactly.
It wasn't like we had like 14 blockbuster movies coming out in the same month nowadays, or there's a new Star Wars movie every year. Back then we only had X amount of TV channels or only X amount of movies coming out. So when Keanu does a movie, that's the movie he's doing for that year. Now he'll do like 3 movies in a year, and he's John Wick and Bill. He's coming back as Ted Theodore Logan. He'll probably have some weird cameo in some other movie somewhere. It was just a different time back then. But nowadays, not only is there so much crap out there in current tense, there's also all the awesome stuff from the past that you have to go back and check out. And plus all this stuff on social media, like there's TV shows being produced on like Twitter and Instagram or even YouTube that we probably won't even see because we're not on. Well, I mean, we're on that stuff, but we're not. Our attention isn't devoted there. It's our old school ways come from movies and TV. Nowadays, everything's on social media. That's why, when Daredevil got canceled, it's probably going to come back on Hulu, but you never know. It might even just come back on like some YouTube Red channel or something like that. It's a completely different time now. Times is changing.
Speaking of different times, I want to talk about the Bill and Ted's outfits. Bill is literally wearing a sweater crop top.
He's wearing a crop top. Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Did dudes wear that in the 80s? In the 90s?
I don't remember wearing anything like that.
Dude, Ted, I was looking at that. I was going to bring it up. I'm like, dude, that outfit. I don't know where they got that.
Is Ted
fine? Ted's wearing Chucks.
No, but Ted is wearing.
He's got shorts.
No, he is. Dude, Ted is wearing sweats underneath his shorts that are rolled up underneath his shorts. I think is that what those are?
But that's probably, I don't know.
Who the heck wears that?
It could be cut off shorts that are just rolled up. But like he's wearing shorts, a Zeppelin shirt or a Van Halen shirt, and a orange jean jacket. That's fine. Oh, and a vest. But Bill's wearing a crop top.
I don't know why.
Like he's showing off those abs. Like even his stepmom isn't dressed like that scantily clad.
That's true. He is wearing a crop top.
It's weird. When I watched, I was like, "Why is he wearing a crop top?"
It's like a muscle,
and it's got like a couple holes in it too. By the way,
yeah, that is weird.
Fairly used.
So in the original script, the Bill and Ted were supposed to be 14-year-old skinny kids that were hated by the popular kids, but after they cast Keanu and Alex, they realized that they were too cool to be sort of the unpopular skinny kids, so they sort of rewrote the characters to be a little bit more aloof and dumb, but probably I'm assuming popular and chicks like them. But even though they don't really show the high school life that they lived really, because it's only taking place over the course of one day really, and it's
Yeah.
So, but I think that was interesting that there was a different sort of idea behind them. Who do you think would have been a good if they had kept it as 2 14-year-old skinny kids? Who do you think would have been good people to cast in those roles?
At the time, I don't know.
Yeah, and River Phoenix, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's too cool again. I don't know. They'd have to put the guys from the 80s there. What's his face? The guy that's always the nerd.
Sean Astin.
No, not Sean. Oh,
I
Sean,
mean,
I guess
I don't
Sean
think it was
Astin, but
14 back then though.
No, but the guy that was
Corey
in
Feldman.
In Goonies?
No, Corey, not Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
He went to.
Oh, Corey Haim,
Either
no,
one. Of
what's
them.
his name?
Pick a Corey.
Kiefer.
The guy that was in Weird Science, the blonde guy.
Oh,
he's always in
Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall.
He
Yes.
would actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there would be one of them, but
he would have been.
You know who would have been
a
good?
Ted.
It's a 14. It
Actually-
would have been
actually, both
who's
those
the guy
guys
from
from
Ferris
that
Bueller?
movie.
What's his name? Matthew Broderick.
Ooh.
nah, he's too cool.
He's not cool at all. Stop it.
Hey, he in Ferris Bueller, he's super
No,
cool,
but he's-
man. Come on now, he's
think-
Ferris Bueller.
I think he would be too deadpan, and he wouldn't be like. I don't think he could be like dumb.
He
enough,
reminds
you
me
know?
of Toby, of like a later, earlier generation Toby Maguire, or Toby Maguire reminds
Yeah.
me of him. And I think Toby could have
just
done
like a
it.
quiet nerd.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these people are supposed to be hated by the popular kids. But I guess you're right. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other characters. Now, I want to talk first about Joan of Arc. Is she hot? The actress.
Like the actual Joan of. Oh, the actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
She
attractive.
was cute, right?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought so too.
She was cute.
Why did you not think so?
No, I did. I was like, I don't remember thinking she was that hot when I was a kid watching it. But now that I watched it, I was like, oh, she's like really cute.
Yeah, I remember, growing up and, being so young with that movie, she's really the main female actress in that movie. She's the one that you see most often.
Well, I think you see Missy.
Well, yeah, but how many times? Like 2 or 3?
I'd say like 4 or 5 times, probably.
Whatever. But she's also portrayed as a mom. And during those times,
Oh, God.
I don't know about you, I was not into moms. So,
We'll talk about that later.
Jane Lee, that's true.
We'll talk about that later.
She's one of the. I think she's like the drummer for the Go-Go's or something.
Who? Missy or the?
She's
that
a
Joan of Arc?
guitarist.
The guitarist
Yeah.
for the Go-Go's. Yeah,
She's cute.
She's in the band.
That's why I was like, oh, she looks familiar.
Is she the most attractive woman in the movie? Or you think one of the babes or Missy?
Oh, I forgot about the babes, the princesses.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's kind of a toss-up because it's like
You could take either one of them. I mean, they're all.
So you believe in the
pretty
Starsky and Hutch
attractive.
line where it's like, which one you want? I want the blonde one. Cool, because I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
pretty much. They did a really good job casting all the beautiful women.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other characters. I love, and I'll introduce them by the names that Ted or Bill, I can't remember which one, introduces them to Missy as when they step out of the so
yeah. They're fake names.
he said they're fake names. So one was Beef Oven. I think that's what
Yeah.
they called them. Then it was Socrates Johnson. Dennis Frood.
Sounds like a brother.
It was Bob Genghis Khan. I can't remember one of the other ones. I don't remember what he said, but I love Socrates Johnson. It's hilarious to me.
Socrates, yeah.
Bob Genghis Khan was funny. Now, Abe Lincoln, the actor who played him, do you think he looked like Abe Lincoln at all?
No.
He didn't look like him at all.
I honestly thought it was the guy that played Ted's dad, just dressed as Abe Lincoln. Like I thought they were the same dude.
Actually, the guy that plays Ted's dad would look more like Abe Lincoln than the guy that played Abe Lincoln. But he's probably not tall enough.
Yeah.
But I guess. But
Doesn't matter.
what about the Royal Ugly Dudes?
I don't know. What about him?
It was just perfect casting. They're only there for a second, but
they're
like
royal. They're ugly.
yeah.
Off with their heads.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't pay too much attention to the one.
So in the credits, if you look at the credits, there's like, there's a couple characters that are they have like a credit and it says like, this is guy, and then they show the character's name. And there's a couple that you can see that are in there. One is Old West Ugly Dude. That's literally the character's name. Another one is Ugly Waiter
Nice.
and Stupid Waiter. And Ugly Waiter,
Those the,
and those are the writers.
Ziggy Bites? Oh, they are.
Yeah, the a guy who's
The
Ugly Waiter
Ziggy Piggy,
and the
Ziggy
Stupid
Piggies.
Waiter are the writers of the movie. Yeah, I think it's the Ziggy Piggy guys. Yeah, yeah. Ziggy Piggy. I never forget that. Okay, let's talk to this script. Okay, so the time machine that's in this movie was originally supposed to be a 1969 Chevy van, which I'm assuming is a rapist van. Is that what they look like?
Probably.
I don't know.
Like one of those conversion vans?
Yeah, with the little circle
Yeah.
window in the back, and you can put like a drapes on the
Tin foil up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was one of those, but they said it was too similar to Back to the Future, so they actually didn't use a vehicle.
A time travel movie in a vehicle. I mean, yeah.
So they didn't use it. So they used the telephone booth, which I guess they said they thought was somewhat similar to Doctor Who, but not too
He
similar.
does all the timey-wimey stuff in a phone booth.
Yeah, but they said they used to use a phone booth for it. I don't know what you guys think about this, but was it the time that this was made where there was this idea that you could have a time machine that's made out of like a normal item, like a car or a phone booth or something like that? I don't know.
Well, I think this one, it was just disguised as a telephone.
For sure.
I mean, remember it was
Yeah.
it was like a crystal thing
For sure.
or whatever. It was just something made out of something.
But they
I
could
don't
have
know.
used anything.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
the filmmakers decided to use like a regular item, and I just find it interesting that
Well-
I can't think of a movie like a modern movie that does something like that. Can you?
No, I mean, I haven't really seen any movies about time travel.
No, even in
anytime recently,
the
so.
Time Machine, both the remake and the original, he's in some weird sled thing.
Yeah.
So it's like there
Yeah,
needs to be
exactly.
some sort of vehicle that you can, quote unquote, not like literal, but like something that you could sit in.
Yeah, but I mean, like, did you see that movie with Denzel, like Deja Vu?
That
He goes
movie's
back
pretty
in
good.
time, but it's like they get into some thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
remember
Like
that,
some
yeah.
like a
contraption.
pod from
Yeah.
like The Fly or Altered States.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Comes out as a monkey.
So I just find it weird that there's this period of time where you have two major studio films where the time travel is involved, but the time travel device is a regular thing. You know? I just find it interesting.
Maybe it's just lazy writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe to just, yeah, I guess so. Because you would think, why wouldn't they have the money to make some contraption, you know? But so be it.
But like even like why a phone booth? Because one thing that always annoyed me about this movie is that there's Bill Ted, Billy Kid, Jones, Socrates, Beethoven, Sigmund Freud,
Socrates.
Genghis Khan, Abe Lincoln, right? So there's 8 people? And there's 8 people that are supposed to be shoved inside of this phone booth. Like there's even one point when they got everybody and when they realize that the antenna is broken, that everybody's like just spilling out the side and things like vertical.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
like when it lands, like what's going to happen? Like they're like, okay, everybody, we're about to land. Get back inside. Like shove yourself inside this phone booth. Like that didn't make sense to me. And then like even when they like
It's magical, fool.
even when they do land, it's like there's one scene where like the dude who's playing Sigmund Freud is like like squished together like a sardine, and he's just like turning around, like trying just to make space so that way Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves can get in the phone booth. But they could only have like 4 people max in there. Like there's no way you could fit more than 4 bodies in that phone booth. I refuse to believe it.
I'll tell you one thing though, Devo. It's much more likely that you can fit 4 to 5 people in a phone booth than you can actually time travel. And it's funny that you picked this to be like, it's like, that's what irks me. You know what?
Yeah.
You can't fit 4 people in
Hey,
that thing.
You know what?
They're traveling through a portal in time.
It also came from the future. They couldn't figure out that Bill and Ted needed to get 8 figures from the past to pass their stupid oral exam that was
I agree.
apparently
They
in
should
front of
have
the
known better,
entire
but hey.
school.
The problem is they knew it was going to work because they know it was going to work.
Why couldn't they provide them with a vehicle that was large enough to fit everybody?
Because it's not comical relief.
Well,
And,
I wasn't
initially
laughing.
Initially, it looks like it was going to be because that van could have fit 8 people.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Not a thing.
initially it would have.
They could have sat back, ate their snack packs.
Yeah, and had like the
pudding.
like the
Bubble gum.
wizard,
They put pudding.
the wizard painted on the side of the side
Wild
of the van.
Stallions, baby.
Like
It would be Wild Stallions for
It would
sure.
be Wild Stallions, right? Yeah.
Or maybe an Aztec warrior.
We were talking about the logistics of this stuff, and I was curious if you guys got this sense that This is right in this. I don't want to call it a sweet spot. I can't think of another word for it, but it's a spot where
A G spot.
where it's kind of like in this area where like Masters of the Universe is released and Back to the Future is released, where there's like the beginnings of CG is being implemented in films, but they still use like animation for a lot of effects, and they still use quite a bit of practical effects as well. Did you guys get that sense that this was like of a particular time? Specifically,
Of course.
technologically,
this is super dated. I mean, they really only use like the CG like for. I'm assuming that
wormholes.
was for the when they were they were going through the portal.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
It is
some
CG. They
primitive
said it was,
CG,
yeah.
right.
That and like at
Okay,
the very
so there you
beginning
go.
when that crystal is coming down.
Oh yeah,
And then it turns
Well, yeah,
into.
I don't even think that's CG. I think
Phone
that's
booth.
real.
I think that's a practical.
I think that's a real practical
Was it
effect.
real future crystal.
I think so.
Well,
it was like
no,
styrofoam
I
or
think
something,
that's
probably.
time
That thing
traveling
looked
crystal?
terrible. The only reason why I said that it's not CG, and what Clint said is that it looks terrible. it looks like one of a ring pop going through like
It really does.
like a little hole. That's what it looks like. And I'm like,
George
this is
Clooney was just
terrible.
standing underneath it with his mouth open.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming that crystal was what the time machine looks like when they don't make it look like a phone booth to blend in with like the current time that they took it back to.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I first turned this movie on and started watching it, the opening song it seemed so out of place for the rest of the movie, because the movie is like.
Disagree. I thought that was badass.
Yeah, but the
Really?
movie
And I
has
thought
like
it
all this
fit so
rock
perfectly
music
with
in
the
it,
opening.
and this is like some like super synthy pop 80s.
Yeah,
And I get
it's
like
in the future.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's in the future, Clint.
yeah, but even when they went to the future,
was
the
the year
music
you said
didn't
it
sound
was,
like that.
2098.
No, it was 700 years in the future.
Yeah, there you go.
But actually,
I can't break away.
it wasn't when they went to the future. None of that music was playing. They were actually playing like guitar music,
Well,
like
you can't
guitar
play the intro
soloing.
song throughout the entire future part. You gotta mix it up.
Well, I think the point was that Bill and Ted's music was supposed to have like crafted the foundation of their society. So they thought that their music would be the music that they would play. And I think it was their music that they would play, because if you watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they play music that's very similar to that when they finally play at the very end, when they've got kids and they've got beards and stuff like that. So I pretty sure that they're listening to rock music in the future. That's why I thought that song was out of place.
So,
But I never thought that when
Nice
I was
segue.
growing up. When I was growing up watching the film, I never thought that though. Only just recently.
who are those three people at the beginning?
What three people?
When the time machine crystal comes down, and then Rufus is like,
The
"All right,
black
I'm gonna
guy
go
and the
back in
two
time now."
white ladies.
Well, one of them was a dude.
Oh
but,
yeah, white dude, black dude, and the white lady.
Yeah, who are those people? Like, what was their significance?
It's probably the supreme ruler of that time, the president or something.
the coolest of the
The
cool,
senators.
the awesome,
Oh,
the
yeah.
awesomeness,
The most excellent of the
the
excellent.
most exactly. That's what
The
they
most
were.
bodacious partiers.
Exactly, that's who they were. That's what I always figured. Dude.
Excellent to each other. I think that they were the leaders of the world at that time.
And isn't it kind of weird how like that society is already in place and it's an awesome place, but they still have to go back in time to make sure it stays that way?
I mean, this is the Terminator thing, right?
It's the chicken. That
Yeah,
thing,
exactly. You get into this whole, this paradoxical thing where it's like, how did we get here? So you're telling me that it had to be written in the book that we had to send these people back at this particular time to go back and save it? Well, why couldn't we have done that a year ago?
Yeah.
Why did we 700 years ago back? It doesn't even make sense, right? But,
Bullshit.
this guy.
I think we switched roles on today's episode, Clint.
No, it's fine.
I'm the sci-fi denier.
Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead to something since you're on this already. There's a scenes at the end where I guess the Deus Ex Machina of the film is that they can sort of decide in the present that they are going to in the future go back into time and provide themselves with something that will help them get out of their current predicament. And it's
Like, remember the trash can. Remember the trash can.
and so they're basically just making stuff up as they go.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if they, what if they forgot to go back?
I don't know. Like, but that's the thing, right? Like, even Rufus is like, because they're like, yeah, we got 10 hours. And Rufus is like, no, you got 2. And then Bill's like, oh, you forgot to wind your watch. So he reminds himself to wind his watch.
Yeah.
So, like,
And it's funny that you mentioned
know.
that scene because Okay, so when they first meet each other, they're sitting there and they're bewildered and they're talking. And then when they show it again when they're on the other side of it, which is a really cool plot thing. I really thought that was actually pretty clever that they did that. But when they show them again before they step out to talk to each other, they're talking to each other and they're like, what are we going to say? And then they fast forward to them like basically finishing it. So I almost felt like maybe they went on to cruise control. Like they were thinking to themselves, what are we going to say? But it just happened. Kind of like the history of what do they say? Like you can't change the future. You can't change history. It just sort of took place. They just sort of went through the motions. And maybe that's the same thing that would have happened when they had to remember to go back and do all this stuff in the past to take the keys and all this shit like that. I thought that was...
What does Sarah Connor say? Our fate is what we make?
Yeah. I don't know what to think of it. It was just an interesting thing to think about, that being as an adult and not having ever thought of it as a kid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let me bring it back. Now, let's talk about some of the little things that happen in the movie here. Bill's old man, when they first show his dad and Missy is bringing in food or sandwiches or something like that.
Yeah.
So Bill's dad was literally going to bone her on Bill's bed. He did that.
Not literally. He did.
He did.
Yeah.
He did that.
He tore it down.
He was like,
and even Ted's like,
Ted was like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, they're totally gonna do it in your room. Shut up, Ted. Oh, you remember when I asked her out to the prom? Shut up, Ted.
So funny. It's so funny.
And that scene, that's one of my most memorable scenes in the movie too, is when like they're walking down the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Like at the time, like I didn't really understand like that the dad was boning the mom in Bill's bed.
Yep.
But the interactions they have, and then when Bill yells at Ted and Ted's standing there and he just looks at me, just like gives him a big old smile and shrugs. I'm like, that's awesome. That's Keanu right there.
Did you know what else I thought it was funny is they were literally just abducting people. They were just going through time and they were just kidnapping people. That's essentially the crux of the film. We just could go through and kidnap a bunch of people. Do you think that it was feasible that they actually physically could have done that though?
No. Genghis Khan would have murdered everybody.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan would have murdered everybody. They probably they probably could have got Sigmund Freud. And here's another weird thing. The weird thing too is that with Billy the Kid, they had to spend time to coerce him to join them. Or not? No, he didn't even coerce him to join him. It was like they got in a situation where Billy the Kid could only survive if he went with them in their time machine, not knowing what it was, and then just all of a sudden becomes friends with him. And then with Socrates, they have to go and philosophize with him, and they basically just bumble their way through that, and then they kind of just lead him on. And then after that, they're like, oh, we're running out of time, and they just go kidnap everybody.
Yeah, and if they didn't have Billy the Kid, they wouldn't have been able to accomplish a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it would have been nice to see them having to gain people's trust, like more than just Billy the Kid and Socrates. Like, with Beethoven, he was just sitting there playing piano and they just walk in, lift up his chair and take him out,
Yeah.
Joan of Arc, like the Joan of Arc thing was kind of interesting because she's sitting there praying and then, Ted comes out and he's doing like the Michelangelo finger point thing, with God. And then she's like, oh, and then they just kind of like lure her in. Like that's, I don't know, sexual assault. But, yeah, and then like with Sigmund Freud, they get him in a lasso. They basically hog tie him to pull him out. And I don't know, like, is this racist or not? But they got like Genghis Khan with a Twinkie.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
They're like, oh, come get a Twinkie.
Wow,
Twinkie.
I didn't think about that
because like I don't know like what the actual like implication is, but it's like he's such a savage that he can only be lured by like flesh and food. But like he was almost like acting like an animal, right? Like they're like, here you go, come get your bone. He's like, oh, like wasn't Genghis Khan a ruthless killer? Like if somebody came and invaded his hut, like wouldn't he just go crazy and like wouldn't any of his guards like step up and like try to attack him?
Yeah, they would have.
The only guards that had any like the only guards that were like any like of any use were those the old ugly dudes guards.
No, the thing is though is that if they would have just appeared out of nowhere, like out of that. Even if they look like a bunch of doofuses to us, but just
they would have gone straight into defense mode, though.
Think about the time. If they would have thought people just materialize out of nowhere, they'd be super scared.
They'd be scared, but they'd still be up in arms.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just the way it was back in the day. It's like,
I think
fantastical
it would be straight Dynasty Warriors. They would just be swinging swords left and right.
One thing would probably happen was that they probably thought they were a deity or some sort of god, and they would probably fall to their feet and just because honestly, what happened with we have an example of that here in South America is like when the Spanish show up. They didn't even show up magically. They showed up on boats, but the people thought they were gods. Because they looked the way they were dressed and all this. Now you have two people just showing up out of nowhere. Of course they're gonna go with them, dude. Or they just be so shocked.
It was a ball of light, actually, truly what it really was.
There you go. Even more, a ball of light shows up and two people show up, dude. Of course. They literally. I think Genghis Khan would literally be shitting his pants.
I think the part is that they would have freaked out coming into the future more than they.
We're thinking about.
Than they showed that they did.
Now the question is that would he have stayed pacified throughout the whole thing once he realized what was happening? Probably not.
Yeah. Would he be on stage doing a martial arts exhibition?
Of course not.
No. They would have freaked out.
He'd be tearing through that crowd, killing as many white people as he could.
I mean, you know what he was doing in that? He was doing in the sporting goods store. He would have been doing that all over Saying Day Must Fall.
Yeah. You mean a mannequin? He's going to assault a mannequin, but every, citizen's going to be like, and he's going to be taken into custody, really? Get out of here with that face. Bullshit.
They would have had to blast him.
Yeah, he would have got gadded. Imagine that. Ooh, actually, that brings me to the next point.
If they would have got a black guy, he would have got shot.
2 in the chest. Boom.
Yeah. All right.
What did you want to talk about?
I think you offended Clint.
No.
Yeah,
what I was going to say is when we get to the end, if this would be a remake or whatever.
Okay. We'll talk. We'll leave it for then. Okay. I have a couple more things that I want to talk about. So do you think that how when they mentioned the teacher, the Bill and Ted's teacher, the black guy, every time they mention him around Missy, she's like, "Oh, tell him I said hi," and then she goes and sits next to him during the performance. What do you think was happening there?
Oh, come on, really?
He tapped it.
Did you see the look that he gave her? Yeah, you see the look he gave her?
It's implied.
He's like,
likes older men.
Missy's here.
Yeah.
Well, she likes, maybe not just older men, but like maybe in that particular scenario, it was how she got through high school or something. But like I think there was definitely something there. Because even like he gives her a look like, oh, Missy's here. Hey. And like he pays more attention to her than what's going on the stage.
That's why they got an A+, well.
Boom.
It's funny because
that's why they got an A+. That's why they got an A+.
You know, it's funny. There's like a moment, I believe, where I think even Bill might be on stage where he says he has a minor Oedipal complex. Is that when he says that?
Yeah.
Because he's asked him about Freud. Do you want to get on the couch or something? You want to lay down? He's like, no, I kind of have a minor Oedipal complex.
Yeah, but he didn't know Missy was there. Now the secret's out.
So he does like Missy, or he doesn't?
He does.
Of course he does. She was a senior when they were freshmen.
No, I get that, but I'm saying
even when they're like when she's like bringing them snacks, they're both looking down her top.
Oh, I get that, but then Ted is like
if that was his, like if he was actually like trying to treat her like his mom, he'd be looking away and Ted would just be drooling. But no, they're both like, whoa.
Yeah, but he didn't like when Ted talked about her though.
Because he's jealous. Because Ted was the one that had the guts to ask her out to prom.
Oh, okay, interesting. I don't think I thought of that one. I thought of it that way.
Well, and plus, like the whole family scenario, like
that's
he's
up,
always
by the way.
he's always like, hey Missy, I mean mom. Like that means like there's something there's some foundation where she's supposed to be mother. And if your best friend keeps talking about how hot your mom is, that's going to get annoying really fast.
Well, I mean, you got to also think about it like this too. Like, so they were freshmen and she was a senior, right? And she was like the catch. So I'm sure they've already had like, sexual like thoughts about her. And
Dude,
poor
imagine
Bill
how many times Bill beat off to her.
Exactly. So now poor Bill is in the situation where
and now she's mother.
Mother, exactly. And that's a mindfuck and a half for your ass. You know, so I mean, honestly, I would never call her mom, but Bill.
See, that was what was weird too, right? That he actually called her mom.
That's a strange situation. That is a
very.
strange.
She forced him to. It seemed like,
or
was probably the dad.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, probably.
And probably because they were like they would go into his room and fuck on his bed.
Well,
that is.
Well, I'll tell you what,
dude,
though.
This is poor Bill is so.
Dude,
messed
I'll tell you
up,
what
dude.
though. Ted's dad seemed like he had a stick up his ass, and I was presumably single. But Bill's dad was a happy motherfucker. And there's not. Yeah, exactly.
Even when both dads show up to the presentation, like Ted's dad is just like, "What is this garbage?" You know, like just the look on his face. But Bill's dad was like, "Oh,
he's feeling
cool,
it." Yeah,
there's lights going on. There's a dude dressed like Abe Lincoln. Like he was into
because he's boning a 19-year-old chick. A lot of things in life aren't that serious. If your wife is a 19-year-old chick.
Well, she's probably older because Bill and Ted were seniors, so they must have been at least 17, 18.
Yeah, she's got to be like 21 or
okay,
something.
excuse me. She's 21. The fool was like 50.
Of course. No, I'm not saying
he's living the dream.
Better.
Exactly.
He's living the dream. Don't hate.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying it's not that big of a difference. Okay, let's talk about Napoleon before we move on to It's Just So Ridiculous, because I fucking love this guy. He's the star of the show.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, okay, this fool's fucking hilarious. Obviously, the Ziggy Piggy scene is hilarious, but in the Ziggy Piggy scene, this fool cracked me up when he they show him the ice cream, and then they show later on he's eating it, and the girl tries to put her spoon in, and he stops her spoon, and he's got ice cream all over his face, and he eats the last bit, and he looks at her like, bitch, this is my ice cream, and then he belches.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious, dude. I couldn't stop laughing.
Even after that, when they take the bowl away and there's a little bit of ice cream still on the table, and he's like, oh, and he gets a fingerful and eats it, and all the kids are like, ugh.
And then when he's bowling, oh God.
Oh, that's my favorite scene. It's one thing when he's sitting there and he's trying to hide the score sheet from them, even though it's projected on the screen. It's he's bowling a 49, but he puts a 1 in front of it.
It's because do you think he tries to do it secretly because he doesn't know that it's projected? Or he does know?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't think he does know.
He doesn't know, right? He thinks he's being secretive.
My favorite scene though is when he goes to actually bowl, and it's so funny because the timing's perfect. He winds up, he releases the ball, and it's almost the second the ball leaves his fingers, he's mad.
He's just furious because he can't bowl right. Because he's not used to anything going wrong for him, right? It's hilarious.
Because he knows the second the ball left his fingers, he messed up.
Ugh. And then when he goes to the water slide, oh my God. He's like, sacre bleu. What does that mean? I don't know, but it just made me laugh so much.
I forgot.
And he screams through the water slide. And then when he goes back, he goes and he picks up the one kid and cuts in front of him and then goes down in front of him. Hilarious to me. And he's wearing some white outfit, and I don't believe he's wearing anything underneath. That would have been pretty obscene, probably.
Sacre bleu is a French expression of surprise, exasperation, or dismay.
Okay. It was hilarious to me. Napoleon is hilarious. He's really good. Dude, Gooch.
I think he was my favorite of all the historical figures.
Oh, for sure. For me too. For sure. He's Napoleon. And then they diss him too. It was hilarious.
And wouldn't people in the 80s think it's kind of weird that a little short dude is walking around with a sword?
Yes, but I think, you know what's funny? Back in the 80s, put it this way, if there was ever a time in American culture where you could walk around in a Napoleon outfit and people would actually think it's somewhat normal, the 80s would be the time.
But even when he's getting kicked out of the bowling alley, they're like, hey, you gotta pay. He's like, pay? The dude physically throws him out of the bowling alley. Wouldn't Napoleon try to draw his sword and defend himself?
I mean, yeah, if it wasn't a comedy, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm 5'7", if somebody comes at me and I got a sword, my first reaction is I'm gonna draw it and I'm gonna fillet you.
Yeah, I guess. But maybe Napoleon wasn't that good with the sword. Maybe he's just a general. I don't know.
Or maybe it was only for show.
Could have been. Gooch, one last thing before we move on. Oh, two things. Number one, I found it very amusing that when they went to the medieval time, the guards that the king told them that they're like, guards, get them. One of the guards had like a really nice morning star, which he used obviously to hit the antenna of the phone booth.
Right.
But that was an awesome morning star.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Devo, what kind of guitars did Rufus give them at the end? Because they didn't have like a head. Do you know what they were?
I don't know what brand they are, but I've seen those types of basses. Like I know there's basses, and I think there's guitars with them. They have no head, but like to adjust the strings are all in the back of the neck. I don't know like what purpose that serves or anything, but like you can still go out and buy those. They still make those type of guitars. It's for whatever reason there's just no head.
Interesting. All right, so let's go to...
I guess, like, back then, it was just supposed to look more futuristic or whatever, you know, so...
Yeah, I mean, but that's the funny thing about futuristicness, is that futuristic isn't actually the future. Make something look futuristic, it doesn't mean you actually have to depict what the future would really be like. You just have to make it look different enough from what it is now, right. And then that makes people think that it's futuristic, right? Which, in reality, the future is going to pretty much look like it does now. It just will have more technology. Like, people aren't going to have houses... Like, future. I mean, houses are 100 years old. It's not like all of a sudden every house can get bulldozed over in the next 100 years and every house is going to look different, you know? So, and well, unless there's a war, of course. But, okay, let's go to Just So Ridiculous. So the first thing I thought of thinking of the movie now was that these fools wouldn't be struggling with history at all if they had Wikipedia. Because remember the scene where they're sitting and they're trying, Ted is jumping on the bed and he's like, and they're trying to like remember stuff. And now the guy would just be on his phone looking it up.
Yeah. Yo, you remember when George Washington was in the Hall of Presidents? Yeah, what'd he say? Welcome to the Hall of Presidents.
Yeah.
No, actually, you know what? I take that back. I think they would struggle because during this time, they still have encyclopedias. And all the people that they go to kidnap are in these encyclopedias.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's one thing to have the resource available to you. It's another thing to be able to know to go and use it. And these guys, even when they're leaving the school, they had a ton of books, but they just didn't know any better. So, even when you like think about like during their presentation, they're not really doing much presenting. They're just saying like, here's Abe Lincoln, and then Abe Lincoln goes and does his own thing. So like Bill and Ted are getting credit for what these guys are known for, and they're just doing their spiel. You know, they're like, hey, here's Beethoven, and then Beethoven goes off and plays a song on like 80s MIDI sits, you know? Like, these guys didn't really do much. They just went in time, kidnapped a bunch of people, used them for their gain and benefit, and then I'm assuming they sent them back to their normal times.
Yeah, I think they did.
And how does that not affect anything?
Oh, like
well, I mean, obviously Abe Lincoln
stuff?
dies. Yeah, but like, how does Abe Lincoln not go back and be like, hey, you know, this happened to me. I went to the future. I saw, you know, all this stuff. Like, does he get killed before he could tell anybody or like write anything down?
I don't know. Maybe
probably use like a memory eraser or something, dude. I don't know. It's this,
Men in Black him.
Hey, exactly. It's a sci-fi comedy film.
Yeah.
Just thinking too much into it.
Speaking of comedy, I thought it was hilarious that
I sound like Clint right now.
It's seriously, dude.
It's
So
glorious.
what's wrong with you?
It's very interesting.
I think you need booze too.
there's like a scene where they're in
I
the
am drinking, so
when they're in the phone
more.
booth and they look at the phone book, and the phone book is actually called Circuits of Time, and the subtext is history at your fingertips. I thought that was amusing to me. One of the things I thought was ridiculous is that they insinuated, and they do this a lot in movies where time travel, where they insinuated that essentially it was Ted, I think, gave Socrates his ideas, his philosophy ideas. You know what I mean? Like, that was, to me, was preposterous, but whatever. When they go to the medieval time, do you think that they were actually in those knights of armor, or those were just stuntmen in the very beginning? Like, I know Bill has like a version of that on later.
No, I think it's actually them, because like you watch the way that they move and the way they're laboring around. Like, it looks like it was like Keanu and Alex Winters like trying to mess around wearing like full knight armor. They don't look like elegant at all.
And if you look at it, it's only like the front part of the armor, anyways.
But not when they first put it on. When they first put it on,
they're also not wearing chainmail.
Yeah, they're not wearing chainmail underneath, so it's just like the plate, like the thin plate that's over them. And so it's like, I think it's them in there.
Do you think that they ad-libbed the Star Wars part, or that it was in the script?
Probably in the script.
Do you?
I mean, this whole movie is pretty silly. So
yeah, I mean, it's got to be in the script.
or maybe like they worked it on the set, but with the writers there with them. But I'm pretty sure it's in the script.
So there's a scene where they are in the mall, all the historical figures, right? And so you have Joan of Arc wants to do like aerobics, and Beethoven wants to get on like a keyboard and stuff like that. And I was curious, they like kind of dropped the ball on some of those, because they showed the scene where like Socrates and Billy the Kid were trying to like Matt game just like some young girls, and then like supposedly Sigmund Freud came in and ruined it. Like, why wasn't Socrates in a bookstore?
Because he was trying to Matt game with
yeah, but I mean, like, why wasn't Billy the Gun in like a gun?
Billy the Gun.
No, it's Billy the Kid. Billy the Gun is the ass
Billy
man.
the Gun was ass man.
Yeah. But why wasn't Billy the Kid in a gun shop? Is what I'm trying to say. I didn't know. They kind of just they went half-assed on it. I don't get it. And then when they started arresting everyone, right? Why did they arrest Beethoven? What was he doing that was so bad?
He was causing a ruckus. That's what
he was just playing the piano that the guy told him to play.
A ruckus.
And then the guy was like, "Oh, get out of here." I was like, "For what? You told him to play." Does it make sense?
It was the 80s, Phil.
Again, here's my other one. When they first encountered Sigmund Freud, the fool was speaking German or something like that. And then all of a sudden, as the movie progressed, he spoke English.
Well, it wasn't even like as the movie progressed. Like when they're like he's speaking German, and then they say something to him in English, and then he starts speaking English back to him, like, "Oh, leave me alone, leave me alone."
Oh, so he said it from the right beginning. So I guess he spoke English.
Must have known. Yeah, well, he's Sigmund Freud. He's super smart, I guess.
I guess so.
Boom.
When the other one I thought was ridiculous, when they go to the police station and they like trick the dad to like follow the police recorders, somehow they get up and walk into the back area, and I guess obviously the dad didn't see them, but no one else did, even though there was a ton of people in the police station.
And like that just goes to show like how easy it is to break into a jail to do whatever.
Well, maybe they're just used to having like surfer guys in there and stuff. They're like, oh, just another surfer guy. Shit, it's just normal. It's like,
well, better not be Johnny Utah.
That's what. Well, exactly. Well, there you go. But I'm just saying, it's just like some '80s dudes that are in the jail.
What was Swayze's name in the movie?
Oh, I don't remember.
Do you remember, Devo?
Let me look it up. I'll look it up.
I can't remember it. Okay, Kim Coppola Award for the worst acting performance in the film. Do you guys have any nominees?
I would go with Billy the Kid.
Wow, Billy the Kid.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're playing silly characters. I mean,
I thought Billy the Kid was okay.
I thought Billy. If anything, it would be like maybe Abraham.
I thought Abe Lincoln was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was. He was.
If
terrible,
anything, maybe the babes were pretty bad.
I mean, they didn't have much to say.
Didn't, but yeah.
And there was supposed to be like a language barrier there. Joan of Arc didn't really do much.
Joan of Arc didn't. Yeah, you can't give it to her. She was just there.
Like I think it's gonna be Billy Kid, because like wasn't Billy the Kid supposed to be like this sort of like badass dude from the old West? And then
I mean, it's not that. It's like the way the guy acted. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but like even like when but like they're playing the poker game, right? And then Bill's like, "Oh, 3 aces," and then they're like, "Hey, Billy, you're cheating." And then Billy, like, he looks like left and right and goes, "Gulp, me cheating?" Like, it's almost like a cheap, like, Looney Tunes character, you know?
Well, that's not his fault. That's the writing of the writer's fault.
Yeah, well, Gooch, if you're a great actor, you can overcome terrible script.
You can overcome. You can really overcome this acting. Come on now. I mean, honestly, all of it's pretty bad. I mean, we like it because it's
but I can't give the Coppola Award to the writers because they made the rest of the movie. So
I agree.
You know, that part was written, and you know.
So yours is Billy the Kid.
Yeah, maybe that was the best of all the deliveries, and every other delivery he had was worse. So
yeah, exactly.
For me, it's got to be Billy the Kid.
Mine is Abe Lincoln. It's a terrible.
I think I'm gonna go with Abe Lincoln because he was horrible. I was like looking at this is not Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, he's terrible. He did a terrible job.
And he's party on, dudes. I was like, oh,
yeah, it was even
so
worse.
bad.
It's even worse.
You've been outvoted, Devo. You're awarding it to the guy who did Abe Lincoln.
When you hang out with Bill and Ted, you become a dum dum.
Devo would rather take a party on Abe Lincoln than he's the dude.
All right,
Billy the Kid.
Let's go with some deviantly repeatable quotes. Okay, you guys have any favorites? I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll say other ones that I don't have.
I only really have one because all the rest of them, it's like, you know, it's probably the ones that you're gonna say, but I like the one where, the Bill and Ted are talking to what is it, Ted's younger brother.
Oh yeah,
Deacon, and how Deacon. And he's like, dude, how'd you let, Napoleon go? I'm like, oh, he was doing all this stuff. I'm like, he won't, like, but it doesn't matter. I'm like, the fool's, he's all, he either said, he's a dick.
I think he said Deacon.
Or he's a dick.
Yeah, he goes, Deacon, do you realize you shredded one of Europe's greatest leaders in San Dimas? And Deacon just goes, he was a dick.
He was a dick. He just
but he was,
he was a dick.
He was.
And that was
Napoleon was an asshole.
I wasn't expecting the way he said it.
And then Bill was so defeated after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was like, actually, he is a dick, probably.
Because he was a dick.
It's hilarious. The way he delivers it is perfect.
Yeah, it was so funny. That was I actually had me laughing out loud when he said that, because that was just so unexpected. Because the rest of the film, you gotta expect what the verbiage and stuff they said. I had totally forgot that he was a dick.
The brother was being truthful.
Truthful, yeah.
Devo, do you have one? You have any?
For me, it's the first time when Bill and Ted meet Rufus, and I say this, and I've done it from the moment I've seen this movie to even now when I see the store, and it's when Bill and Ted look at each other like, or Bill goes and he goes, Ted, strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Yeah.
And like anytime I see a Circle K, I say that all the time.
I think it's Ted that says that to Bill.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I had that one written down. It's great. Here's some of my other ones. The teacher goes, Ted, stand up. And he's like, what? He's like, stand up, son. And he stands up and he's like, who is Joan of Arc? He's like, Noah's wife. It's hilarious to me. It's hilarious to me.
Or even after that, the teacher's like, so from this class, you've learned, I forgot what they said, but they said like, this person is a famous dead. I forgot, but like the way they just oversimplify things.
A famous dead dude, yeah. Dude, and it makes me laugh because after they walk out of the class, Keanu actually asks Bill. He goes, "Who is Noah's wife?" He's like, "Dude, I don't know, man." It's hilarious to me. And then he goes, and then the first time they see Missy, it's hilarious to me. He goes, "Hi, Missy," and he goes, "I mean, mom." And then Ted goes, "Dude, your stepmom was cute." He's all, "Shut up, Ted." He's all, "Remember when she was a senior and we were freshmen?" "Shut up, Ted." And then when they're looking,
remember when I asked her at the prom?
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then when they're looking down Missy's shirt, I forever remember this. They look down Missy's shirt and they both are looking down, and Ted looks over at Bill. He's like, "Dude," he's all, "Ted, it's your mom, dude." It's perfect Keanu. It's perfect Keanu.
Yeah. It's so sad that like for the longest time he looked at that role and was like, I'm so ashamed of it. And it makes me so happy that they're coming back and do Bill and Ted 3.
He has to, because it's a great role. It's so perfect. And then he goes, one of the other ones I love is when they're trying to fight the guys in Medieval, like in that little dungeon or little, like, I guess, cooking room or whatever the heck it was. And he's like,
the kitchen.
And he goes, "Hey, look, it's the Goodyear blimp." And then the guy turns around and he gives him a wedgie, literally. I was like, wait, what? And then after that, he goes, "Oh, Ted, don't be dead, dude." And then when Ted like hits the guy and they hug in unison, I thought it was weird. They go in unison. They go, "Fag, fag." I was like, that seems so out of place.
I forgot that.
I don't think I ever remember that being.
Because back then,
it makes sense, but
yeah, but back then, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't know what. They hugged each other and I was like, okay, whatever. But just like when they're like, "If you're the real us's, what number are we thinking of?" And they're like, 69, dude. I'm like, okay, I don't get what that is. Until like a couple years later, once I figured out what that was, it's like, the
way they deliver the lines is just so great. And okay, another one of my quotes is when he goes, "I am the Earl of Preston." And then Ted goes, "And I am the Duke of Ted." It's hilarious to me. He doesn't say Logan. He just says
And
Ted.
but even still, like he's holding his vest like Abe Lincoln would hold his vest.
He's like very proud of himself in that moment. It's hilarious to me. And then
even when the dad walks past him, he's still just like holding onto his vest, like
And it's funny because the Royal Ugly Dude goes, put them in the Iron Maiden. They go, excellent. And he goes, execute them. And they both go, just bogus. It's hilarious to me. It's funny because the Iron Maiden thing, it's just that little play on it. It's funny. Okay, let's get to the. Go ahead.
That kind of gets me to like one point where they talk so much about like Van Halen, Iron Maiden, and like, but they don't. And it's probably all licensing and stuff, but they didn't have any music that sounded like any of the bands they seem to be interested in.
No, you're right. Because I was looking at the soundtrack and none of the bands I've ever heard of. I've never heard of some of these bands.
Yeah.
A lot of them, in fact. Almost all of them I never heard of, period. Funnily enough, one of the best bits of music was when George Carlin did his little solo, which is another piece of music as well. And I don't know if you know this, Devo, but the final song that they played to end the credits was partly written by Dweezil Zappa.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A little nod to our Running Man alumni.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, Deviant remake. So it's money. I'm it's perfect that you said this because I was curious. My first question is, if they made this movie now, like they remade the first movie and it's essentially the same similar movie, what kind of soundtrack do you think that movie would have?
I think it kind of depends. If there's still like the kind of like bumbling high school white boy idiots, then you're probably going to have like a pop punk or maybe like even like because we're way past the new metal stuff. Like if this happened when we were in high school, then like it'd be like Korn, Limp Bizkit, that sort of stuff.
They should have made it during that time because that would have been a great time to make a movie like this with all that kind of music because it was a truly golden age for that.
Gosh,
the real thing about it is that it's like I don't know if because they're like these guys are like Spicoli from what Fast and Bridge on. Literally, that's who they are. These guys, right?
Right.
And so it's like this weird, like Southern California type person. I don't even know if that kind of person even still exists.
It doesn't really.
Right, exactly.
But if you'd have done it in the 90s or the 2000s, you could have had like Sublime. You could have those types of bands, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
The 90s may still, but we're talking about now. Now,
but I mean, even in the second movie, like Primus is in the second movie, I believe.
So
I think the musical style of the second movie was even distinctly different from this one, and that's only 4 years later.
Right. Well, I mean, the movie. The
first movie is pre-alternative,
it was 88,
and the second movie is like in the very beginnings of alternative music.
Yeah.
But even when they come back, they're dressed up as ZZ Top, and aren't they playing like Van Halen style music?
Yeah, they are. I mean, that was truly what they loved. Because if you can watch the beginning of this movie, they're talking like, what do they need? We need Eddie Van Halen to be in the band.
So one thing that's kind of interesting is you talk about the music is that from what I understand, Bill and Ted 3, it's the working title right now is Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I think according to Keanu, it's Bill and Ted as adults married with kids, and they have to write a song to save the world. And so I think music is going to influence this movie like very heavily.
I mean, that's what they've built up to, right? Because in this movie, they say that their music saved the world. So I'm assuming that the movie would be about that song. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny that it's great that you mentioned that, Devo, because as of May 8th, 2018, the movie was announced to be in pre-production.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that means they'll presumably be shooting it, and hopefully it's Keanu's next movie after John Wick 3.
Yeah, hopefully. But kind of going back to see what the kind of movies that I'd like to see. There's two different kind of Bill and Ted movies I want to see. Reading up on the movie, one thing I saw was that the movie was originally supposed to be Bill and Ted going back in time, but causing a lot of the great catastrophes. So like the burning of the Zeppelin, the crash of the Titanic, things like that. So they were supposed to be the ones responsible for those those tragedies. I would like to see something like that, and maybe it would be more of a modern thing to where like they are like, hey, we've gone back in time, we've done all these cool things, we can't screw anything up, but then they go back and maybe like without getting into like 9/11 territory or anything like that, but like they do something to cause some sort of like I don't know, like massive tragedy or something, but like, they bumble their way into that. Or you go into maybe a more serious role to where it's like, say, for example, they remake Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and they go and they get Genghis Khan. They're not, luring him with a Twinkie. They have to like battle him somehow. And like, maybe there's the real threat of them losing their lives or something. But like, I think just something a little bit more visceral and more realistic versus like, oh, we're just bumbling our way through time and taking all these famous figures to help us with our school play.
So you kind of want to see him spend a little bit more time in history and struggle inside the history, kind of like they did with the medieval one for a little bit.
That one. And with Billy Kid, yeah. So if they had more time in the areas, because like even whenever we would play the Ninja Turtles game, Turtles in Time, like you spend so much time in those like other zones, like that's part of the beauty of that game. And if they could translate that into a Bill and Ted movie, that would be fun.
I think this one falls into this location, the situation where it's probably good for maybe a sequel. Or maybe like a spin-off to where their kids may have to save the world and they're idiots too. So maybe that's where they continue this whole thing.
Ooh.
But I don't know if it's the themes are so dated. So I don't know if that would work. It's kind of like how Ace Ventura, I don't think would be a good remake. Just same with Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber had a sequel or a threequel, I guess. But I don't think they could remake those. I liked it. It was fine. It was a funny movie. But I don't think they could make a reboot it. It falls into that category of movie to my mind.
So the show spawned 2 television series. One was an animated series that actually the first season had the voices of Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, and George Carlin. It was ran in 1990, so very close, like essentially in between the first 2 movies. Then there was a live act, and then the second series had a different cast, and then they made a live action series that had 7 episodes. There was even a DC comic at one point, and then they actually made a Marvel series called Bill and Ted's Excellent Comic Book. And there was a couple video games, Game Boy, NES, Atari, Lynx, a PC title, Commodore 64. And there was even a theme park, Horror Nights. There was like Bill and Ted's Halloween Adventure at that, I guess, at Universal Studios. So yeah. The Bill and Ted's is a franchise that's had some success just beyond like an initial film. So yeah, I'll start off with my deviant worthiness first, and then you guys.
Before you continue, Clint, there's also the new A Most Awesome Breakfast Adventure Bill and Ted's Excellent Cereal.
Really?
Cinnamon oat cereal and marshmallow music notes.
Huh. Who made it? Like Nabisco or something like that, or what was it? Kellogg?
No, a company called Ralston.
Oh God.
It's got to be made of like horse glue or something.
God. So yeah, for me, for this film, it's like a vestige of my youth, so I can't really look at it with like, an unbiased eye, because I really love this movie and it's hilarious to me. I think I probably like it more than Ace Ventura, which we did recently. And I think I gave that one like a 7. So I feel like I got to give this one like an 8, just because I love the movie. It's a vestige of my, it's like, I will never ever forget some of the stuff that's in it. I might even like the second one a little bit better than this one, maybe even. But I do love this one. And I think it's not too raunchy. So I think if a kid wanted to watch it, you probably could watch it. And I think that obviously some of the stuff like the 69 and the fag and the the boning in Bill's room stuff might not go over too well nowadays, or especially if a kid kind of gets it, they might not get it too well. But I still think it's harmless enough that it's still a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, for sure. For me personally, I like Ace Ventura a little bit more than this movie. Watching it now as an adult, I had a different experience with it. I don't know if it's my advanced age or my multiple concussions, but like I just didn't connect with it the same as I did when I was a kid. And it wasn't even like how things didn't age very well, but it's like a lot of the historical figures outside of Napoleon just were blah to me, and they spend so much time babysitting them and interacting with them to where it's like if I had more of the Bill and Ted adventure and less of them interacting with the historical figures, even though I know like a lot of the adventure is based on that, I don't know, maybe it would be a different outcome. But for me, I'll give it a solid 6.
I have to agree with Devo. I gave it a 6 too, and I also liked Ace Ventura more. I think that I would give that one a 7 or something, or 7.5. I don't remember what it was. Very much what Devin says is that when I watched it, even when I was a teenager, I felt that it was just a bit too much, to be honest with you. I mean, this whole surfer boy thing had been done before, so although I found it funny, but I felt that it was maybe a 1 or twice to watch. So, I mean, if you're gonna, the problem is I would not suggest someone to watch this if they're not from the 90s or like they grew up there. I don't think a kid would even partially even try to understand what's going on in that film, right? Because like the cartoons from that time were kind of like this too. Even like the Ninja Turtles were like, Michelangelo was one of these dudes, Yeah. So you had multiple characters of the same type in multiple or different types of media. So they just took, they took Michelangelo from here, they took Spicoli from there, they took one of someone's cronies from another film and put them all together and made these characters. And I felt that I've already seen them, and now even as an adult, I've seen these guys a lot, And you take, I don't know what, I'm pretty sure Beavis and Butthead were like made from these guys because it's literally they're exactly the same type of character. Again, you have a funnier duo. I think Beavis is much funnier than these guys are because they can be. So if you're gonna go somewhere with it's funny, I'd go watch Beavis and Butthead, especially their like musical reviews. So a strong 6. Would I suggest this would be one of their first films to watch from the 90s? There's much funnier comedies from the 90s. It's
not from the 90s.
From the late 80s. Oh, it's even worse. There's much funnier comedies from the late 80s than this one, I would just say. So, if you're interested of teaching kids like how Southern California culture was, or like what people perceived as it was, then yeah, sure, this is a good film to watch for that and have a couple chucks.
Lucho, when you say you gave it a solid 6, that reminds me of that famous quote when he's like, "I got a straight 6." That's a reference to his erection, Clint.
That's right.
I no comment. Well, we will end it there. It was fun talking about Bill and Ted's, and even if the guys didn't like the movie as much as I did, I enjoyed the movie watching it again. I hope that anyone that listens to this will have enjoyed it as well. Enjoy it on its 30th anniversary.
Yeah, I agree.
And we will be back very soon, next week maybe, with another new movie.
See ya.
Fuck off.
Be excellent to each other.
Party on, Teds!
It's definitely a lot less aggressive than my fuck off.